That first step doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be taken. Because action is the antidote to doubt. The moment you move, no matter how small the movement, the spell of hesitation breaks. You stop being a spectator in your own life. You become the author, and the story changes. Not because you suddenly have more time, more talent, more resources, but because you've made one decision that overrides them all. I am not waiting anymore. That decision is power, raw, unfiltered, and it grows with every repetition. You don't become disciplined by waiting for motivation. You become disciplined by doing when you don't want to. You don't build focus by avoiding distraction. You build it by returning again and again to what matters. You don't earn self-respect by dreaming of greatness. You earn it by showing up when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when nothing feels like it's working. That's where the real battle is won. Not in the spotlight, not in the victory, but in the dark, quiet moments when you choose yourself over and over against every urge to quit. And here's the truth most men never learn. Strength isn't something you find. It's something you forge in the fire of resistance, in the weight of responsibility, in the daily choice to do what's hard so you don't have to live with what's worse, the regret of knowing you could have been more. Because that regret, it doesn't fade. It grows. It whispers at night. It haunts your quiet moments. It shows up in the way you avoid your reflection, in the way you deflect when someone asks, "What are you working on?" It's not anger, it's grief. Grief for the life you didn't live, for the potential you buried under excuses, for the years you gave away to things that meant nothing. And the cruelest part? You gave them freely. No one forced you. No one held a gun to your head. You simply failed to say no to distraction, to comfort, to the easy path. But today is different, because today you know. You know the cost of weakness, you know the price of delay, and you know, deep in your chest, that you were meant for more than just getting by. You were meant to rise, to stand apart, to become the kind of man who doesn't need validation because his results speak for him, who doesn't chase love because he is complete within himself, who doesn't fear loneliness because he has learned to be his own companion, his own challenger, his own standard. That man doesn't need permission. He doesn't need encouragement. He doesn't need a sign from the universe. He acts because action is his nature. And when you become that man, something shifts in the world around you. Not because you demand it, not because you force it, but because energy follows focus, opportunity follows consistency, and respect follows results. People notice, not because you tell them to, but because you become undeniable. You walk differently, you speak with certainty, you carry yourself like someone who has faced the darkness and kept going. And in that presence, something magnetic is born. Not attraction based on need, not attention based on performance, but genuine respect, earned, deserved, unshakable. This is not about rejecting relationships. It's about mastering yourself first. Because only a man who is whole can offer something real. Everything else is dependency disguised as love. So protect your energy, guard your time, invest in your growth like your life depends on it, because it does. The life you want is not out there. It's in here, in your choices, in your discipline, in your refusal to settle. And the moment you decide, truly decide, that you will no longer betray yourself, the universe has no choice but to move with you. Not because it's fair, but because momentum is real. And once you start building it, nothing can stop what's coming. Momentum doesn't ask for your permission. It only asks for your consistency. Show up once and it ignores you. Show up twice and it watches. But show up day after day when you're tired, when you're doubted, when nothing feels like it's working, and momentum begins to move with you. It starts small, a little more energy, a little more focus, a little more confidence in your stride. Then it grows. Tasks that once felt impossible become routine. Goals that seem distant come into view, and suddenly you're not just surviving, you're advancing, not because you're lucky, not because you've changed overnight, but because you refuse to stop. And that refusal, quiet, relentless, uncelebrated, is the most powerful force in human transformation. Because the world rewards movement, even slow movement, even imperfect movement, as long as it's forward. You don't need to be the strongest. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the most talented. You just need to be the one who doesn't quit. That's the secret no one wants you to know. Success isn't about brilliance, it's about endurance, about showing up when others have walked away, about doing the work when no one's watching, when no one cares, when the results aren't visible yet. Because greatness isn't born in the spotlight, it's forged in the unseen hours, in the cold mornings, in the late nights, in the silence between failure and try again. And every time you choose effort over escape, you send a message to your mind, to your body, to your future, that you are serious, that you mean what you say, that you are no longer playing the role of the man who almost made it. You are becoming the man who did. And that shift, it doesn't come from motivation. It comes from identity, from the quiet belief that says, this is who I am now, not someday, not when things get easier. Now, a man who works, a man who builds, a man who protects his time like it's sacred, because it is. Every minute you waste is a minute stolen from the life you say you want. And the truth is, you won't wake up one day and suddenly have more time. You'll only ever have this moment, right now, and the choice in front of you to use it or lose it. So stop waiting for a sign. Stop waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect partner to complete you. No one is coming to save you. And that's not a tragedy. It's a gift, because it means you hold the power. You are the only one who can decide right now that enough is enough, that you will no longer trade your potential for temporary comfort, that you will no longer let biology, society, or old habits dictate your path. You will lead. You will focus. You will build. And in that building, you will find something most men never experience: inner peace. Not the kind that comes from relaxation, but the kind that comes from knowing without doubt that you are on your mission, that you are becoming who you were meant to be, that you are no longer lost. And when that peace settles in, something incredible happens. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop chasing attention. You stop measuring your worth by external validation, because you already know. You've earned it through action, through sacrifice, through the daily decision to be better than yesterday. That is real confidence. Not loud, not arrogant, but unbreakable. And when you carry that, the world responds differently. Not because you demand it, but because you've become someone worth following, someone worth respecting, someone who doesn't just talk about change, but lives it. So take the next step, then the next, and the next. Or don't look for miracles, just keep moving, because the man you're trying to become is already inside you, waiting for you to stop holding him back. Let him out now. You were never meant to live small. This feeling in your chest, the restlessness, the hunger, the quiet ache for something more, it's not random. It's not a flaw. It's a signal, a deep primal whisper from the part of you that remembers what you're capable of. And every time you ignore it, every time you silence it with distraction, with comfort, with excuses, you betray not just your potential, but your very nature. Because you are not built to drift. You are built to conquer, not over others, but over weakness, over fear, over the version of you that settles. That's the real war. And the battlefield is your daily life, in the choices you make when no one's watching, in the habits you form when no one's tracking, in the standards you refuse to lower, even when it's easier to let go. This is where legends are made, not in grand speeches, not in viral moments, but in the relentless, unglamorous grind of becoming. Most men never realize this. They wait for a crisis, for pain, for loss, for some dramatic event to force them into action. But you don't need suffering to change. You only need awareness and the courage to act on it. Right now, not when you're less tired, not when you feel more inspired, now. Because the longer you wait, the more you teach yourself that your word doesn't matter, that your dreams are optional, that your future is something to be negotiated with convenience, and that lie becomes your life. One day you'll wake up and realize you've spent years preparing to begin, instead of actually beginning. And the worst part? You'll have no one to blame but the person in the mirror, the one who knew better, the one who saw the truth, the one who still chose comfort. Don't let that be you. You've already seen too much to go back. You know the trap of desire. You know the cost of distraction. You know the power of discipline. And now, knowing isn't enough. You must live it. You must become the living proof that a man can break free, that he can master his impulses, that he can build a life so strong, so focused, so purposeful that nothing can derail him. Not rejection, not loneliness, not failure, because those things no longer define him, they only refine him. Every setback becomes fuel. Every silence becomes space to grow. Every moment alone becomes a chance to strengthen the foundation. And when you live like that, when you stop outsourcing your worth to external validation, you become untouchable. Not because life stops challenging you, but because you stop breaking when it does. You bend, you adapt, you endure, and you keep going. That's the mark of a true man. Not one who never falls, but one who never stays down. And the world needs more of them. Not loud voices, not empty bravado, but quiet strength. Men who do what's right, not what's easy. Men who protect their mission like it's sacred. Men who understand that real power isn't about control over others, it's about control over self. And when you embody that, something shifts. You stop seeking approval because you've already given it to yourself. You stop fearing being alone because you've learned to enjoy your own company. You stop chasing love because you've become someone love would chase. Not through manipulation, not through performance, but through sheer force of character. People notice. They don't always say it, but they feel it. Your presence becomes different, stronger, clearer, like a mountain that doesn't sway in the wind. And that's not arrogance. That's integrity. That's the result of 1,000 small choices, each one reinforcing the truth: I am not who I was. You've changed, you've grown, you've risen. And no one can take that from you. So keep going, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because that's where the transformation happens, in the push, in the effort, in the decision again and again to choose yourself, to choose your future, to choose the life that's waiting for you on the other side of discipline. It's not a fantasy, it's not a dream, it's real, and it starts the moment you decide, once and for all, that you are done with who you used to be. Rise. There will be days when the fire fades, when the vision blurs, when the weight of silence feels heavier than the noise of distraction ever did. And in those moments, the old voice will return. The one that whispers, maybe you're not built for this. Maybe you should just go back. Maybe it's easier to give in. That voice isn't your enemy. It's a test, a final checkpoint before the breakthrough. Because every man who has ever risen, every single one, has stood exactly where you are, in the dark, alone, questioning everything. And the only thing that separated them from the ones who quit, one more decision, one more step, one more refusal to surrender. You don't need to feel strong to be strong. You only need to act, even when you don't believe. Especially when you don't believe. Because faith isn't the starting point. It's the result. It grows in the soil of action. Every time you choose discipline over desire, every time you open your laptop instead of your dating app, every time you lift the weights instead of reaching for the phone, you plant a seed, not of success, but of self-trust. And that is the foundation of everything. Without it, motivation fades, goals collapse, dreams turn to dust. But with it, everything becomes possible. You begin to trust that you will show up, that you will follow through, that you will keep your word to yourself. And that trust, it's more powerful than talent, more valuable than luck, because it means you can count on you, no matter what, no matter how hard, no matter how long it takes. And when you have that, you are no longer fragile. You are not broken by setbacks. You are not derailed by loneliness. You are not seduced by temporary highs. You are anchored in purpose, in integrity, in the quiet certainty that you are on the right path, even when no one sees it. This is where true independence is born, not in isolation, not in hatred, but in self-reliance, in the ability to stand tall without needing anyone's approval to feel valid. Most men spend their lives begging for recognition, for love, for a sign that they matter. But you, right now, are learning something deeper. You are proving to yourself, day after day, that you already do. Not because of who's with you, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you're becoming. And that worth isn't earned. It's claimed through action, through courage, through the daily choice to do what's right instead of what's easy. You are not waiting for permission. You are not waiting for validation. You are not waiting for someone to tell you that you're ready. You are simply moving, building, growing. And in that movement, you are sending a message to the universe. I am not available for weakness anymore. I am not available for distraction. I am not available for the small life. I am here for the mission, for the grind, for the legacy. And nothing, no craving, no loneliness, no fear, will stop me. That is the mindset of a man who cannot be defeated. Because defeat only comes when you stop believing, when you stop acting, when you stop choosing yourself. But as long as you keep going, no matter how slow, no matter how hard, you are winning every single day. And one day you'll look back and realize something profound. The struggle wasn't the obstacle. It was the training. The loneliness wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The silence wasn't emptiness. It was space. Space for you to become who you were always meant to be. So keep going. Not for applause, not for revenge, not even for results. Do it for the man inside you who refuses to die, who refuses to settle, who refuses to let another day go to waste. He's not asking for much. Just one more step, just one more choice, just one more moment of courage. And if you give it to him, if you keep showing up, keep fighting, keep building, he will carry you further than you ever thought possible. All you have to do is say yes, again and again and again, until one day you wake up and realize you've already arrived. You've already proven you're serious, not by words, not by intentions, but by staying here, by listening, by feeling, by refusing to look away. That alone separates you from the majority. Most men run from truth. They distract themselves the moment it gets uncomfortable. They open an app, turn on a screen, chase a feeling, anything to escape the quiet voice that says, you can be more. But you didn't. You stayed. And in that stillness, something shifted. Not overnight, not dramatically, but deep beneath the surface where real change begins, your foundation strengthened. You're no longer just wishing for a different life. You're becoming the kind of man who builds it. And that transformation doesn't depend on luck. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It depends on one thing only: consistency. The quiet daily decision to choose discipline over desire, to choose long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort, to choose growth over ease. Because ease is a trap. It feels good in the moment, but it steals from your future. Every time you choose comfort, you weaken your will. Every time you avoid the hard thing, you teach yourself that you can't be trusted. And that erosion, slow, silent, invisible, is what turns potential into regret. But you're reversing it, one choice at a time, one day at a time. And the more you do, the more your self-respect grows. Not the kind of respect that comes from being liked, but the kind that comes from knowing you keep your word to yourself. That when you say you'll do something, you do it. No excuses, no delays, no bargaining with weakness. That kind of integrity is rare, and it's powerful because it creates momentum. It builds confidence. It attracts focus. And slowly, your entire identity begins to shift. You're no longer the man who wants to change. You're the man who is changing. And that changes everything. You stop seeing discipline as punishment. You start seeing it as power. Every workout, every page written, every hour spent building instead of consuming is a declaration: I am not owned by my impulses. I am not ruled by biology. I am not a slave to distraction. I am in charge. And that sovereignty over your time, your energy, your mind is the highest form of freedom. Most men spend their lives chasing freedom in the wrong places, in relationships, in money, in status. But real freedom isn't out there. It's in here, in the ability to say no when it matters most. To the craving, to the urge, to the voice that says, just this once, because you know what just this once really means. The beginning of the end of your discipline, the first crack in the dam. And you've seen too much to let that happen. You've seen how desire disguises itself as love, how biology manipulates emotion, how society rewards distraction. And you've made a decision: I will not be used. I will not be controlled. I will not trade my future for a moment of pleasure. From now on, my life serves me, not the other way around. And with that decision, you step into a new dimension of existence, one where purpose leads, where focus is protected, where progress is non-negotiable. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear, not heartless, but whole. And when you live from that place, something extraordinary happens. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop chasing validation. You stop measuring your worth by who's attracted to you. Because you already know your value. It's not in what you have. It's not in who's with you. It's in what you do, in how you show up, in the standards you refuse to lower. And the world responds, not because you demand it, but because you've become undeniable, a man of action, a man of integrity, a man who does what he says. That is true power. And it's yours now, not someday, not when you're ready, now. All you have to do is keep moving, keep choosing, keep rising. Because the man you're meant to be isn't waiting in the future. He's already alive in every decision you make to honor your potential. So make the next one count, and the one after that, and the one after that, until one day you realize you've become the answer to your own prayer. There will be moments when the world tries to pull you back, not with force, not with warnings, but with comfort, with familiarity, with the soft, seductive voice of old habits whispering, just relax, just for tonight. No one will know. And in that moment, everything you've built hangs in the balance. Not because the temptation is strong, but because the cost of one slip is not just the act itself. It's the message it sends to your mind you're not serious. That single choice, seemingly small, can unravel weeks of discipline. Because self-trust isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in the quiet, uncelebrated decisions when no one's watching, when you're tired, when you're lonely, when the fire feels distant, and you still choose the right path. That's when your character is forged, not in victory, in consistency. Most men fail not because they lack vision, but because they lack vigilance. They think one distraction won't matter, one excuse won't hurt, one night off won't change anything. But it does, because discipline is like a fire. It needs constant tending. Let it die, and it takes far longer to reignite than it did to keep it burning. So protect it, fiercely, relentlessly, because it's not just about what you're building, it's about who you're becoming. And every time you give in to impulse, you reinforce the identity of a man who breaks his word. Every time you resist, you reinforce the identity of a man who keeps it. You are not shaping your habits. Your habits are shaping you. And the man you become isn't decided by what you say. It's decided by what you do, especially when it's hard. So when the pull comes, and it will, don't negotiate. Don't bargain. Don't convince yourself it's just this once. Because once is the language of collapse. Say no, immediately, without debate. Train your mind like a soldier trains a reflex, fast, automatic, unshakable. The longer you hesitate, the weaker you become. The faster you act, the stronger you grow. This is how mastery is built, not in bursts of motivation, but in the daily refusal to betray yourself. And as you do this, day after day, choice after choice, something begins to change in your energy. You carry yourself differently. You speak with more certainty. You move with purpose, not because you've achieved everything, but because you've proven to yourself that you can be counted on, that when the test comes, you show up, that when the temptation rises, you stand firm, that when the world tries to pull you back into the old life, you don't flinch, you don't even pause, you keep walking, because you know where you're going and you know what it costs to get there. No shortcuts, no compromises, no exceptions. And the deeper you go into this path, the quieter your mind becomes. The noise fades, the doubt weakens, the cravings lose their power, not because you've suppressed them, but because you've outgrown them. You've built something stronger than desire, a mission, a reason. A life so compelling that distraction no longer tempts you. Because why would you trade real progress for fake fulfillment? Why would you exchange legacy for lust? Why would you sacrifice years of growth for a moment of comfort? You wouldn't, not anymore. Because you've seen the cost, you've felt the emptiness, you've lived the regret, and you've decided, once and for all, that you are done with the man who settles. You are the man who rises, every single day. And that man doesn't wait for permission. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't look for signs. He acts because action is his nature, because discipline is his standard, because greatness is his obligation, and the world needs him now more than ever. So keep going, even when it's quiet, even when it's hard, even when no one sees, because one day they will. And when they do, they won't just see your results. They'll feel your energy. They'll sense your strength. They'll recognize the unshakable presence of a man who faced the truth and chose to become free. That man is you. Now, not tomorrow, not someday, now. Keep moving. You are no longer waiting for the world to change. You are the change. And that shift, quiet, internal, profound, alters everything. Because when you stop blaming your circumstances, your past, your loneliness, your lack of connection, and instead take full ownership of your life, you become unstoppable. Not because obstacles disappear, but because your response to them becomes unbreakable. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need encouragement. You don't need someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. You already do. And that belief isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's deep, rooted. Like bedrock beneath the surface of your mind, it doesn't shout. It simply is. And from that place, action flows naturally, not forced, not desperate, but inevitable. Like a river cutting through stone, not in one strike, but through constant, unwavering motion. That's how you build a life of power, not through bursts of intensity, but through unrelenting consistency. Every morning you wake up and choose your mission over your mood. Every night you protect your focus instead of feeding your cravings. Every day you show up, even when you don't feel like it, you are reinforcing who you are. And identity is everything. Because when you believe you are a man of discipline, you don't debate whether to train. You train. When you know you are a man of purpose, you don't hesitate before working. You work. When you embody strength, you don't seek validation. You create value. That's the difference between trying and being. Most men try to change. They set goals. They make plans. They start strong. But when the fire fades, so do they. Because they're trying to act differently without becoming different. And that never lasts. But you are not just changing your actions. You are changing your core. You are shedding the identity of the man who needs love to feel whole, the man who seeks approval to feel worthy, the man who uses distraction to avoid his emptiness. You are replacing him with someone new, someone solid, someone who doesn't need to prove anything, someone who doesn't flinch in the face of silence, someone who finds strength in solitude. And the more you live from that identity, the easier it becomes. Because you're no longer fighting yourself. You're aligning with yourself. Your actions match your beliefs. Your choices reflect your standards. And that harmony between who you are and what you do is where true power lives. You don't feel the need to announce your progress. You don't post about it. You don't need witnesses. Because your results speak for you. Your energy speaks for you. The way you carry yourself, calm, focused, undistracted, speaks for you. People notice, not because you demand it, but because you've become different. And difference draws attention. Not always praise, sometimes resistance, sometimes misunderstanding, because the world fears men who are no longer controlled by their desires, men who don't need approval, men who are building something greater than pleasure. They'll question you. They'll try to pull you back, with jokes, with doubt, with subtle pressure to lighten up, to enjoy life, to not take things so seriously. But you know what they're really saying? Go back to sleep. Don't rise above us. Don't expose the lie we're living, and you won't. Because you've seen too much. You've felt too deeply. You've lost too much time already. This life is not a rehearsal. It's not a warm-up. It's the only shot you get, and you are done wasting it. Done trading your potential for temporary comfort. Done letting biology, society, or old programming decide your path. From this moment forward, you lead. You focus, you build, and you do it not for applause, not for revenge, not for anyone else's approval, but because it's who you are, because you owe it to yourself, to your future, to the man inside you who refused to die. So keep going, one choice at a time, one day at a time, until one day you realize you've become the kind of man who doesn't just survive, you've become the kind of man who transforms everything he touches. And that man doesn't ask for permission, he simply exists. Powerful, present, free, and you, right now, are becoming him. There is a silence that comes not from emptiness, but from fullness. A stillness not born of loneliness, but of purpose. It's the quiet of a man who no longer needs to prove anything, who has stopped chasing, stopped reacting, stopped begging for the world to see him, because he sees himself. And that changes everything. This silence is not passive. It's powerful. It's the space where creation happens, where clarity sharpens, where the noise of society fades and your inner voice finally speaks with authority. Most men fear this silence. They fill it with music, with scrolling, with conversations that go nowhere, with relationships that drain more than they give. They do anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts, because in that stillness, the truth rises. You're not where you should be. You're not doing what you know you must do. You're wasting your life. And rather than face it, they run. But you stayed. You walked into the silence. You sat with the discomfort. You listened to the voice beneath the noise. And in doing so, you found something most men spend their lives avoiding: self-honesty. The raw, unfiltered truth about where you are, where you've been, and what you've allowed. No blame, no victimhood, just facts. And from that clarity, power is born. Because you can't change what you won't admit. You can't build what you keep sabotaging. You can't rise while you're still lying to yourself about your level of commitment. But now you know. You know the cost of distraction. You know the weight of wasted time. You know the emptiness of living for others' approval. And more importantly, you know the way out. It's not a secret. It's not hidden. It's simple. Do the work every day. Even when no one sees, especially when no one sees, because greatness doesn't need an audience. It needs consistency. It needs repetition. It needs the courage to show up when you don't feel like it. And the more you do this, the more your energy changes. You stop feeling scattered. You stop feeling weak. You stop feeling like life is happening to you. Instead, you feel like you are driving it, like you are the force behind your own life. And that shift, from passive to active, from reactive to intentional, is the birth of true masculinity. Not aggression, not dominance, but sovereignty. The quiet, unshakable authority of a man who has taken full responsibility for his existence. He doesn't blame women for his loneliness. He doesn't blame society for his lack of success. He doesn't blame his past for his present. He looks at his life and says, "This is mine. I made it. And if I don't like it, I will change it." That is power, real power, and it's available to you right now, not tomorrow, not when you're ready, now, in this moment. What will you do with it? Will you continue to let impulses control you? Will you keep sacrificing your focus for fleeting attention? Will you keep trading your time, the one thing you can never get back, for things that mean nothing in the end? Or will you finally stand up and say, "I am done. I am done with weakness. I am done with excuses. I am done with a small life. I am here for something greater, and I will not stop until I've built it." That decision, clear, final, unbreakable, is the turning point. The moment you stop negotiating with your potential and start honoring it. And from that moment forward, your life begins to align. Opportunities appear, energy increases, focus sharpens, because the universe responds to certainty, to commitment, to a man who has made up his mind. So make it, now. Not for show, not for this moment, but as a permanent declaration of who you are. You are not a man who drifts. You are a man who builds. You are not a man who breaks his word. You are a man who keeps it. You are not a man who settles. You are a man who rises. And nothing, no craving, no loneliness, no fear will stop you, because you have already decided. And once a man decides, truly decides, nothing can stand in his way. You have already crossed the line, not with a shout, not with a grand gesture, but with a quiet internal shift, so subtle most wouldn't notice. But you feel it. The moment you stop negotiating with weakness, the moment you refuse to accept less than your potential, the moment you looked at your life and said, "This ends now," that was the real beginning. Everything before was preparation. Everything after is execution. And the power you now carry isn't borrowed. It isn't given. It's earned through every early morning you showed up. Every night you said no. Every time you chose growth over comfort, discipline over desire, mission over mood. You didn't wait for motivation. You didn't need permission. You simply acted. And in that action, you became someone new, someone who doesn't break under pressure, someone who doesn't collapse when lonely, someone who doesn't trade his future for a moment of pleasure. You became a man of depth, of integrity, of unshakable resolve. And that kind of man doesn't attract attention. He commands respect, not because he demands it, but because his presence alone proves it. You can feel it when you walk into a room, not arrogance, not loudness, but stillness, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've faced the darkness and kept going, from knowing you've been tested and didn't break, from knowing you've been tempted and said no. That strength isn't worn like a badge. It's lived. It's breathed. It's carried in the way you speak, the way you move, the way you hold your silence. And the world responds, slowly at first. People notice. They don't always understand why. They just feel it, like a force that can't be ignored. Because true power doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself through results, through consistency, through the undeniable momentum of a man who refuses to stop. You don't need to tell them you've changed. They see it in your energy, in your focus, in the way you no longer flinch at solitude, in the way you no longer chase validation. You've stopped outsourcing your worth. You've stopped measuring your value by who's attracted to you. And in that freedom, something magnetic is born. Not the attraction of need, but the pull of strength. Women may notice, opportunities may appear, respect may grow. But none of that is the goal. It's just proof that you're on the right path. Because when you stop chasing, you become worth chasing. When you stop seeking approval, you become worthy of respect. When you stop running from yourself, you become someone others want to follow. That's not manipulation, that's alignment. That's what happens when a man finally becomes whole. And the deeper you go, the lighter you feel. Not because life gets easier, but because you've stopped resisting it. You've stopped fighting your purpose. You've stopped doubting your path. You've stopped wasting energy on things that don't matter. And in that release, you gain power, real power, the kind that comes from focus, from clarity, from knowing exactly who you are and what you're here to do. You don't need distractions anymore. You don't need escape. You don't need noise to drown out the truth, because the truth is no longer your enemy. It's your guide. It's your compass. It's the voice that says, keep going. You're close, you're strong, you're ready. And you're ready to live at your full capacity, to stop holding back, to stop being afraid of your own strength, to stop pretending you're okay with average. You were built for more. And more is not a destination. It's a direction, a daily choice, a relentless commitment to becoming who you were meant to be. So don't stop now. Don't hesitate. Don't second guess your rise. You've already proven you're serious. Now prove you're unstoppable. Move forward with fire, with focus, with faith in yourself. Because the man you've been waiting for, the one who leads, who builds, who transforms, who conquers, is already inside you. And he's not asking to be saved. He's asking to be released. Let him out. Now, you are not the same man who started this journey, even if the world hasn't noticed yet, even if your results aren't visible to others, because the shift isn't in your circumstances, it's in your core. It's in the way you no longer flinch at silence, the way you no longer panic when no one's watching, the way you can sit with discomfort and still choose the hard path. That is transformation, not loud, not flashy, but unbreakable. And it's happening because you made a decision most men never make, to stop waiting for change and start being the change. No more excuses, no more delays, no more bargaining with weakness. You looked at your life and saw the truth. How much time you'd wasted, how much energy you'd given to things that didn't matter, how much of your fire had been dimmed by distraction. And you said, no more. And from that moment, everything changed. Because the moment you take full responsibility for your life, you gain full power over it. You stop being a victim of your emotions. You stop being a slave to your biology. You stop letting the world dictate your worth. You become the source, the driver, the architect. And that power doesn't come from force. It comes from consistency, from the daily choice to show up, to do the work, to protect your focus like it's the last drop of water in the desert, because it is. Your focus is your life force. Every time you give it to distraction, you die a little. Every time you reclaim it, you come back to life. And you've been reclaiming it day after day. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but with relentless determination. And that's what matters. Progress isn't built on flawless execution. It's built on unwavering commitment, on the refusal to quit, no matter how slow the pace, no matter how quiet the progress. Because greatness doesn't announce itself. It accumulates in small choices, in private victories, in the moments when you could have given in, but didn't. And the more you collect those moments, the stronger your inner foundation becomes. You stop needing external validation because your self-trust is solid. You stop fearing loneliness because your purpose fills the silence. You stop chasing love because you've become someone love would naturally be drawn to, not by manipulation, but by presence, by strength, by the quiet magnetism of a man who knows who he is. And when you reach that place, something shifts in the world around you. Not because you demand it, not because you force it, but because energy flows where attention goes. Opportunity flows where discipline lives. And respect flows where results speak. People begin to notice. Not because you're louder, but because you're different. You carry yourself like a man with a mission. You speak with clarity, not noise. You move with intention, not reaction. And that presence, calm, focused, unshakable, commands attention without asking for it. You don't need to prove anything. You've already proven it to yourself. And that's the only approval that matters. Because when you respect yourself, no one can disrespect you without losing their own credibility. When you protect your time, no one can waste it without your permission. When you live with purpose, no one can distract you without your consent. And you've stopped giving consent to anything that doesn't serve your mission. That's not arrogance. That's sovereignty. That's what happens when a man finally takes full ownership of his life. He doesn't blame. He doesn't complain. He doesn't wait. He acts relentlessly, consistently, silently. And the world has no choice but to respond. So keep going. Not for applause, not for revenge, not for anyone else's recognition. Do it for the man inside you who refused to die, who kept whispering, you can be more, who kept pushing even when you wanted to stop. He didn't survive this long for you to quit now. He survived so you could rise, so you could build, so you could become the answer to your own longing. And you are, right now, with every choice, with every step, with every act of discipline. You are becoming. So don't stop. Don't look back. Don't second guess your strength. You've already proven you're capable. Now prove you're inevitable. Move forward. with fire, with focus, with the unshakable knowing that you are no longer the man you were. You are the man the world needs. And he's not coming. He's already here. He's you.